Welcome back to the Crypto Coffee Channel, Hex Tribe. It's Matt here with another video about one of the only things interesting going on in cryptocurrency right now. We're in the middle of a brutal bear market, if you haven't noticed, right? Stocks are down across the board. Cryptocurrencies are down 85 to 95% all across the board. And it's hard to find optimism in moments like this, but I want to talk about something particularly interesting that's going on that's potentially giving us a clue or a window into how Pulse Chain might work when it does launch in the next couple of months or so. And yes, of course, everybody, I'm talking about ETHW, or Ethereum Proof of Work. Now, what is all this stuff and why should you care? Well, long story short, there's potentially free money on the table, especially if you were already a Hex holder and a Hex staker. There could be another essentially free airdrop where you may or may not have coins in a wallet on another network right now that are worth real money today. So it's something to keep an eye on. I know I'm definitely keeping an eye on it. I've got my popcorn and I'm watching. But stick around till the end because I'm going to tell you how my thoughts are evolving around this whole issue. And basically my plan, my strategy, it's very simple because what I'm seeing so far and some of the insights that I have might or might not be useful to people out there. So if you're watching, you want to know how to take advantage of some of this stuff or how I might be viewing and framing this Ethereum Proof of Work fork. Stick around till the end. But basically, let's backtrack. Let's set the stage a little bit. What's happening right now in cryptocurrency? If you just got here, if you haven't been paying attention, long story short, the Ethereum blockchain is moving forward with the proof of stake consensus algorithm. But on September 15th, about 12 days ago, when Ethereum went proof of stake and when it forked into a proof of stake network, there was another fork of the blockchain called Ethereum Proof of Work. Okay, so Ethereum Proof of Work is almost the exact same as Ethereum used to be, except that it still uses Proof of Work while the new/mainstream Ethereum is currently using Proof of Stake. So Proof of Work versus Proof of Stake. Basically, one chain, the ETH Proof of Work chain, still has miners on it, whereas the other chain is moving away from needing to use miners to mine new blocks into the blockchain, and it's just going with Proof of Stake. But because a lot of people out there, a lot of miners out there, have all this mining equipment, they have all these GPUs, and they don't want to just simply give them up or have to sell them or take a loss on them. They decided to create another blockchain called ETHW, ETHW. You'll hear me call it ETHW or ETH Proof of Work, but probably ETHW. Basically, it's the blockchain that's exactly like Ethereum. It's an exact copy. And if you had any coins on there, especially Hex and Hedron, if you had these coins before the time of the fork on September 15th, you now have all these coins copied over to a new blockchain. Kind of similar to what Pulse Chain is about to do. That's about to blow everyone's minds. But this is almost a test run. A very interesting scenario where it's not quite like Pulse Chain. It's not quite as good. There's not quite as many features yet or infrastructure built around the whole ecosystem yet. And I am extremely much more bullish on Pulse Chain, I have to say that. But you can't ignore what's going on in the ETHW blockchain right now. So right in front of me is a price chart. It's a very new price chart. And you can see this is Hex, but not the Hex on the main Ethereum proof of stake blockchain. This is Hex on the ETHW blockchain. So because it only started about 12 days ago, it's a very, very new chart. There's not much history here, and there's not too much we can draw from a chart this brand new, especially with lower liquidity. You can notice over here on the side, there's about $33,000 of pooled Ethereum liquidity. If you double that on Hex, there's about $66,000 total of liquidity in this market. So what does that mean? If you're trying to trade values around the couple tens of thousands of dollars range or higher, it's probably going to be a really bad time for you to do those kinds of trades without eating a bunch of slippage in one way or the other. But if you're messing around with a few hundred to maybe a few $1,000s, you can probably execute your trades on here in a reasonable manner. And now this is only a 12-day-old chart. Guys, this is only a 12-day-old project, and it kind of came to me out of nowhere. I didn't even know when the fork was happening that the miners were planning on building this Ethereum Proof of Work fork. I didn't even hear about that until a couple of days before the Ethereum fork happened, that the miners apparently told the world that they were going to be making this blockchain. So not only do I not know any of the miners or really any of the founders, but it just kind of seemed to pop up a couple days before the fork, and I hadn't had time to really look into it. I haven't been following any developments going on in this ecosystem, and I don't even really know who the founder is. His name is Chandler Guo, and I retweeted a video from him. Basically, he just said ETHW is going to do 100x or whatever. Pretty generic video. He seems like a pretty normal Chinese dude. Not much public history of being a public founder, so do with that information what you will. I mean, this is a new blockchain that sprouted up in the past couple of weeks here, and the founder used to be on the Ethereum core team, or part of the Ethereum core team, where he apparently did some favors for Vitalik in the past related to mining, and he respects Vitalik, but he wants to go a separate direction, and essentially gave everybody free coins in the process by forking the blockchain. So if you have a MetaMask account, you'll be able to switch networks and just flip-flop them and go see what they're worth over on the other blockchain, or at least see how many you have. And just as a 5-second tutorial for anyone that might not know how to connect to a new network, you very, very simply open your MetaMask, click the green button on top where it says Ethereum Mainnet, click that right on top, and you'll be prompted to add a network or connect to a different network. And when you want to add a network, simply copy everything that you see on this screen right here into the appropriate field on your MetaMask. So ETHW mainnet, mainnet.ethereumpow.org, chain ID 10001, and the block explorer and all that. You just copy and paste them into these fields over here on MetaMask. It's so easy. You'll be able to figure it out in like 10 seconds. So take a screenshot of this or just Google it. Guys, just Google it and copy this into your MetaMask. And then you can flip-flop between networks, just like you can flip-flop between the Ethereum network and the Pulse chain, testnet v2b, and in the future you'll be able to flip-flop between the Pulse chain mainnet and the Ethereum mainnet. So this little feature right here in MetaMask is very important to familiarize yourself with, especially if you plan on getting involved into Pulse chain. This right here, guys, it's a very simple button, and it lets you flip between every EVM compatible network. So anything that's compatible with MetaMask, we call it an EVM network. It essentially uses the same underlying technology called the Ethereum virtual machine. So that's how you connect, guys. That's how you connect. And a lot of people want to know my thoughts about what do I think about the future of ETHW. And to that I say, it is way too early to say definitively one way or another. I mean, how can you call anything a failure or a success after 12 days old, after really just hearing about it recently? It's not like Pulse Chain, where it's been in development publicly for over a year now, that people have been testing it out on with testnet. People have already been building apps on Pulse Chain. This ETHW thing kind of hit me out of left field. But just judging by what I'm seeing evolving over the past couple of days, is I've seen the Telegram chat for ETHW. It's caught on pretty well. It's got over 22,000 members in the ETHW Telegram chat. If you want to learn more about this blockchain in general, go to the Telegram chats and just ask questions. Okay, that's how you learn about things in cryptocurrency. See, this is so new and so novel that I'm still forming my opinion, and so is everybody. We're all just watching this, trying to think about it from different angles, and mostly think about how much opportunity there really is here to make money, which is really exciting to me personally. So let's talk through it. Now, just by the fact that there's so much mass in terms of the people that have eyeballs and attention on ETHW, I guess you could call it a community, but it's really nowhere near, the Hex and Pulse Chain community. But just because so many people are talking about it, and there's 22,000 members in their Telegram, right now I can see ETHW being around for quite a while, short of any critical vulnerability, right? There's always the existential risk that ETHW could just go down because there's some poorly written code, because maybe it was rushed to market or something like that. That's always going to be a risk with every blockchain. Maybe a little more so with this one, just because I don't know as much about it. But I'm starting to feel like it'll be around a while. And usually, just like with Ethereum Classic, blockchains don't necessarily have to thrive. They merely have to survive to maintain any kind of price at all. And the fact that they just survive will mean that people will trade a ticker symbol for, ad infinitum. So if I had to speculate, I would say that I don't expect ETHW to thrive like I do with Pulse Chain. But I kind of see it surviving for, a couple months, years, etc. Again, short of being exploited in a critical way. Now, one more cool thing is that there's actually 2 Ethereum forks. So I've been talking about Ethereum W, and I'm going to continue to focus on that one. But there's also Ethereum Fair. Okay, that's denominated as ETHF. That's just another fork that was also kind of rushed into existence out of nowhere in my mind. I don't know much about that one, but I have even lower confidence in the Ethereum F chain. And again, if that changes, I'll change my mind. But I know that Justin Sun from Tron is behind that product. And I know that things that he touches tend to, not do so well price-wise. But again, something doesn't have to skyrocket in price for it to be used. It just has to have some base level of tradability. That's really the bar is pretty low in cryptocurrency, honestly. And although I'm not going to be focusing on ETHF in this video, the answer is yes, you do actually have a free copy of all your hex that you had before September 15th, also on Ethereum F or Ethereum Fair. So if you want to Google Ethereum Fair and try to get a handle on how to connect to that network as well, you can do that Googling yourself. You can go on Twitter and find Ethereum Fair. You know, it just doesn't seem like it's as organized of a community as ETHW. I think their Telegram and ETH Fair only has 2,000 people. People can't even seem to agree on like the naming convention or the ticker symbol name. And the way I see people talking about ETH Fair, not to mention with Justin Sun's involvement, it just seems a lot more noobish, and their website reminds me a lot of, 2017 ICO Mania websites, like it was just slapped together in a couple minutes. Not really sure who the figurehead is on Ethereum F, and again, I don't mean to trash talk either of these. I hope they both survive and do very well, because then we'll have hex on 3 different blockchains, and 4 when you count Pulse Chain. And free money is a good thing, right? So I hope they all survive. But I want to focus and zoom in on ETHW right now because I think it has legs, a little bit more so than ETHF. And hey, maybe ETHF will end up being amazing too. But right now, let's just stick to the plot, right? With Ethereum W, we can see what's happening right now with Hex is basically called price discovery. People don't really know how to value Hex right now. It's so early that, I'm not recommending to just go ahead and ape into Hex on the Ethereum proof of work chain. Just know that if you're buying Hex on the Ethereum proof of work chain, it is a different native token than Hex on Ethereum. So Hex on Ethereum proof of work is a completely separate token than Hex on the main Ethereum chain. So I'm personally not buying right now because I don't know if this is the top or if this is the bottom and we're just getting started. And I don't know either way, but because I was staked in Hex long before the fork happened, and because I have a ladder, and because the timing worked out actually with some of the Maximus contracts, so I had some liquid Hex that also got forked onto this chain. I've got a lot of options right now, and that's one reason that if you weren't a Hex holder already, not even a staker, but even just if you were a liquid holder, you're benefiting from this in some way, right? So it's just one more reason to, if you weren't a Hex holder or staker already, and if you're not right now, well, you missed out on this opportunity right here. And if you don't get it again, if you don't get Hex on the Ethereum main blockchain, by the time Pulse Chain comes out, you're going to miss out on all the opportunity on that blockchain too. So this is, again, a great test run and just kind of proving to people how holding Hex, even if it's liquid or staked, will have so many residual benefits that we might not even predict. Like this ETHW thing, I didn't even predict it. It just kind of fell out of the air into my lap. And I'm extremely grateful because it's also the bottom of a bear market. So a little free money at the bottom of a bear seems pretty cool to me. And so all eyes are on ETHW right now. And as we can see, if we go to just the main ETHW page, Hex and Hedron are some of the top traded pairs on this blockchain, which is, if anything else, is just free eyeballs, free advertising. Because everyone that's going over to the ETH proof of work chain is going to come to dexscreener.com. And if you're wondering the website I'm using, it's dexscreener.com, where you can go to different blockchains on the left-hand menu over here and click through and see what's going on ETH POW, what's going on Ethereum Fair. And you can see that Hex, as always, we're dominating and trend-setting on new blockchains and unforeseen territories. So we as Hexicans, as a Hex tribe, global, decentralized community, we have the ability to make things popular if we want to. So I'm not going to be telling people to rush in and buy Hex right now on the Ethereum proof of work blockchain, but that's simply because I'm not doing it myself. But it's completely up to you. So a lot of people are looking at this new blockchain as maybe a new frontier, a new opportunity to maybe chuck $100 in. And hey, if it ever gets up to price parity with Hex on the main Ethereum, that would be pretty great because there's a lot of X's to go between now and actual price parity. And that brings up the question, will Hex be able to achieve price parity from ETHW and Ethereum main chain? What does price parity mean? It means the same price. Okay, so right now, Hex on ETHW looks like in USD terms, it's 0.001, so 1/10 of a penny. Whereas on the main chain, it's 3 full pennies. So to go from 1/10 of a penny to 3 full pennies, that's a 30x. So if price parity did happen with Hex on both of these two chains, we could potentially see a 30x in the Hex on ETHW. But I said we could, right? That's not a guarantee at all. I don't know if that's going to happen. And so I can't say with reasonable certainty that that will happen, but it's really interesting because we get to see how would Pulse Chain potentially play out, especially when you consider the fact that Pulse Chain will launch from day one with a trustless bridge. And the trustless bridge is really the important part, that it's the Achilles heel of ETHW right now, is that there's no safe way to bridge Hex over from Ethereum into ETHW and bond it one for one. So essentially the OA can't make any crazy moves right now that would protect the price over here unless there's a safe and trustless bridge. And because this blockchain is so new, I don't know anybody that's developed a bridge that is provably safe. I'm saying provably safe. When it comes to risk, guys, be careful with everything you do, every button you click in MetaMask. If you click the wrong button, if you're falling for a phishing attack, there's a million ways to lose all your money in cryptocurrency. So you need to be very, very careful. And that's why in this video, I'm not going to be doing any tutorials on how to trade or how to bridge or send off to a centralized exchange. But these are all things that are possible right now today. But the thing that I have the least confidence in out of all this are bridge protocols. We hear about hacks all the time with bridge protocols, especially if they are not trustless. But even if they claim to be, some of the biggest hacks of the year, like even the $600 million attack earlier this year with one of those, I think it was a Solana bridge, people forget so quickly. Like, people have such short memories in cryptocurrency that they don't remember that there are hacks every single day. And so if you're playing around on the ETHW chain, look, when it comes to decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges, those exist right now, and things like Kyber Network have been around for a while. So I don't see that being too big of an issue. Not to say it could never get hacked, but Kyber Network seems like a reasonable DEX. And then there's certain centralized exchanges that you can hypothetically buy or sell your coins on ETHW, send them to the centralized exchange, and use the centralized exchange kind of as your bridge, so to speak, right? In lieu of a bridge, you could bounce onto a centralized exchange for 5 or 10 minutes as quickly as you can, do a swap, ETHW for ETH, and then send your ETH back out to your MetaMask again and go play on the main chain, or vice versa. You can go the completely opposite route from Ethereum into ETHW and then into Hex using simply a DEX and a centralized exchange. That's one avenue of doing things, and I've experimented with that myself, but I'm admitting that there's risk to all this, okay? So I'm not telling anybody to do this, but if you want to learn how to do this, I think a lot of people in Hex are pretty tech savvy, pretty smart, and where there's a will, there's a way, right? If you want to figure out how to play around on this new chain, you'll have no problem figuring it out. Guys, I'll give you a hint. Just go to the Telegram channels of these various projects and just do a Control F for words like DEX or bridge or CEX. And one of my main points that I just really want to stress with this is just be wary of connecting your wallet to random, new, unaudited smart contracts, because number one, you could be being phished. Number two, there could be a malicious smart contract. Be very, very careful with allowances and allowing contracts that aren't trusted to spend money out of your MetaMask. Be careful with the buttons you click in crypto because it's the Wild West out there. But be very, very careful of bridges right now. To get back to the price parity topic, do I think Hex can one day be the same price on ETHW that it is on Ethereum? It's possible. It's possible, but we would really need to see a bridge. And then through that bridge, we would need a lot of liquidity to funnel over, so that we're not just messing around with, $60,000 in a pool here. If we want serious big money to get in, we need a trustless bridge and much more liquidity. Now, we can speculate, would the origin address actually do this? Yeah, the origin address could do this. That's a possibility. But the origin address and daughter addresses would probably need to see a bridge, a safe bridge. So everyone's wondering what Richard Hart's going to say about this, right? And I think I could be wrong here. We might find out tomorrow that he loves ETHW and thinks it's the future, but I believe I remember him saying that he doesn't like to beta test other people's shit, right? What does that mean? You don't want to be the guinea pig for some of this financial software when there's millions of dollars on the line, especially when there's hundreds of thousands of dollars of your hard-earned money that you worked hard to get to put into crypto. You don't want to just throw it away by clicking the wrong button or fat fingering something or being connected to the wrong network. So if I had to try to speculate on what Richard would say, I would think that He doesn't want to beta test other people's stuff. Neither do I. And luckily for me, and luckily for a lot of you, we've already had Hex before the fork. So it's a win-win either way. Now, if you want to be a pioneer and play around and start buying up Hex over on the ETHW chain, I can't say whether you should or not. That's completely up to you. If price parity happens, that would seem like a really good idea. But, if the price goes down for a long time after this, I'm talking about Hex on ETHW, then that would seem like a bad idea. It's just too early to tell. I mean, it's literally 12 days old. So just be careful with people talking about absolutes, like ETHW is definitely going to be the future, or there's no way ETHW could ever get hacked. Like, that's absolutely not true. And I have PTSD maybe from all of the scams that I've seen come and go in cryptocurrency. Guys, I have seen so many things come and go. Been in this space for 7, coming on 8 years now. So people tend to forget very quickly about all the bad things that can happen. And I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade. I think this is a really cool opportunity here that if it goes well, it's amazing for hexagons. There's so much money. I mean, can you imagine if every hexagon doubled their USD value of all their hex in their both wallets on both chains? It almost seems too good to be true, but it is a possibility. And so to summarize what I was saying, one thing that would make me extremely bullish on ETHW that I don't see right now is pretty much the only Achilles heel that ETHW doesn't yet have, which is a safe way to bridge in tokens, because then I could see the origin address maybe bridging in some hex to bond to the hex on ETHW, making it easier to get to that 1-for-1 price level, or maybe even bonding hex to Ethereum and signaling maybe that people should be swapping their hex for Ethereum. We'll see what happens. Who knows, maybe pulseramp.com could be modified in some way to allow economic energy to be transferred between ETHW, ETH, and Pulse Chain in the future. It's all wild speculation right now, so I'm going to hold off and wait because it's a win-win for me. I've got these free coins, liquid and staked, and now they're over on ETHW, which is amazing. And I've got them on ETHW and ETHF, and I will be having them on Pulse Chain too. So like what better sales pitch for Hex, right? If you want to expose yourself to any future fork of Hex in the future, if you missed out on this one, well, you're going to need to get Hex right now, liquid or stakes. Get whichever Hex you want if you want Hex on new chains in the future. And I also have to point this out very specifically that when Pulse Chain happens, they're not forking ETHW. I've been asked that question, that they're not forking the coins that you got for free on ETHW. They're only forking the Ethereum blockchain. So the only way to get your free copies on Pulse Chain is to buy the original real Hex on the Ethereum blockchain. Maybe the word real isn't the best word to use, but you need to be in the Ethereum universe. Okay, you need to have Hex in the Ethereum universe if you want your free coins on Pulse Chain too. Just like people that already had Hex, probably most of you watching, had to be in the Ethereum universe to get all your free coins on ETHW. But if you're just playing around on ETHW, this is going to have absolutely no relation to Pulse Chain when it comes out. So basically, you don't get a copy of your copied coins. Okay, you only get a copy of your coins that were on the main timeline, the Ethereum timeline. Now, one thing I mentioned in a live stream is that with proof-of-work blockchains, especially when they have a lot lower hash rate, they're always at risk of being attacked by a 51% attack. And this happened to Ethereum Classic 3 times in a month. This was only in August of 2020. So again, how quickly people forget that there's a lot of software in blockchain that's just not that great. Especially if the hash rate on ETHW comes down a lot, we could be looking at a lot of 51% attacks on ETHW as well. So don't be surprised if that happens. However, there's a silver lining to this, guys. Apparently the market doesn't really give a shit about 51% attacks. Look, the cryptocurrency seems largely unaffected by the series of attacks, starting at just 4% below its price during the second attack. So it's like this goes back to the point that these are all socially enforced networks at the end of the day. So when 51% attacks do happen, and this would happen by someone just purchasing enough hash rate to reorganize the blockchain for a certain length of time, the main miners, the main guys, can kind of just collude, I guess you could say, or basically just agree. They could all agree that somebody was messing with their blockchain, and the core miners could always just keep going with their chain, forget about the replay attack, or even fork back in some stolen coins onto the main chain. Depending on what happened, they might choose to handle things different ways. But long story short, 51% attacks are a very real risk. Anyone telling you it's not a real risk is lying. However, it's not necessarily as big of a deal for the price as people might think. I mean, if Ethereum Classic got hacked, 51% attack 3 times in a month and it barely hurt the price, that was right in the beginning of the bull market 2020, so maybe sentiment was a little better in the overall market. The point I'm trying to make here is blockchains that get 51% attacked often survive as long as there's enough people with an incentive to keep the chain going. Like the miners in this case, I don't think they're going to want to just end the game. If they get 51% attacked, they're not going to say, oh, well, it's over. Let's all go home now. They're going to figure out a way probably to make this keep working. And I've also heard talks of large institutional players, looking to responsibly sell a lot of their Ethereum tokens, right? Like Coinbase and all that, as they see Ethereum W continue to develop itself in terms of maturing, more liquidity, more exchanges, more applications. And so maybe this bridges into another topic of what can we do as Hexicans to help the cause? Well, I've heard some rumors, and they're probably true, that anytime you try to mention Hex in the Ethereum W Telegram chat, you get banned because people are just so triggered that Hexicans are the ones making all the gains. And they just can't possibly be true because Hex is a scam and Richard Hart's evil and whatever they want to tell themselves to help themselves sleep at night. So apparently the word Hex gets you banned in ETHW. And shout out to, I was watching the Maddie Allen stream with Tangent, and they had this idea of, well, maybe we should make a Hex-friendly ETHW Telegram chat. And it looks like that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, I would encourage, if you guys are interested, people to go join this Hex on ETHW Telegram chat. It's specifically for Talk of Hex, to allow Talk of Hex and Hedron and all that stuff on the ETHW chain specifically. And I think it would be hilarious if that Telegram chat ends up getting more users than the ETHW main Telegram chat. And I also think that's a very real possibility because, like I said earlier, guys, Hexicans literally have the power to make things popular. It's a giant global community across the entire world. And sometimes I think we're a lot more powerful and a lot bigger than we realize. So just like we made Uniswap popular, if you guys want to get in this Telegram group and make it popular too, that could be really interesting, and it could be maybe a good onboarding route for people that were aping into ETHW to maybe get their introduction to Hex for the first time. So I could see a bunch of good things coming out of that. Again, I just warn that, when you're playing around with new experimental smart contracts, I think the biggest risk out of this whole thing is smart contract risk. So using an unaudited DEX, using an unaudited bridge, those are really the main risks you need to worry about. Okay, using brand new software, don't beta test other people's stuff, let them lose all their money before you come in and realize that it's safe. Now that said, when it comes to a decentralized exchange, things like Kyber or forks of Uniswap appear to be low risk, but hey, when I'm on what I think is a Uniswap fork, or what I think is a Kyber network, a very safe thing, I'm not reading through the smart contract, right? I'm not clicking behind the scenes. I'm not reading the audits. I'm just using it because it's been working well for so long. So there's always a degree of risk in everything you do in cryptocurrency, right? And just because I say, oh, I trust different front ends for Uniswap, doesn't mean that I've actually looked behind the scenes and under the hood and see, hey, are they really using the same Uniswap contract? It seems like they are. But is there anything funny in the middle here? Am I being fished? You have to ask yourself these questions. So yeah, Hexicans made things like Uniswap popular, Matcha.xyz. We popularized Staker app. We have the power to make this Telegram popular and get people talking about not only ETHW, but Hex on ETHW. And what does that mean? And more importantly, the big question, can we actually reach price parity? I would love to see it, but I can't guarantee it. And look, guys, if Hex is getting this much attention on the ETHW blockchain, what do you think that means when Pulse Chain comes out? When all that pent-up FOMO and demand for Hex and PLS and PLSX is out, we've got limit orders baked into the PulseX platform with the buy and burn function. We've got lending protocols launching right off the bat, high liquidity environments, thriving ecosystems of large Telegram communities, people that are actually smart, hundreds of people on YouTube. This is such a great test run because if Hex on ETHW works out well, you can be almost damn sure that it's going to work out amazingly on Pulse Chain. I mean, just the fact that it's done this well in the past 12 days, that alone gives me hope, right? I mean, I think it went up like 100 to 200x. Now, granted, You're not going to buy the absolute bottom or sell the absolute top. So the 200x thing on such a brand new blockchain, take that with a grain of salt, but the people are using this. It's the top volume, or one of the top volume coins on ETH proof of work. In my opinion, that's one of the most bullish things ever for Pulse Chain. And if we can reach price parity, then it sets the precedent that, man, if we can reach price parity on ETHW, it's game over. Pulse Chain, it's a no-brainer. Like, we can definitely reach parity on Pulse Chain. So yeah, guys, in summary, be careful. Smart contract risk is your worst enemy here, but it's okay to switch networks. You know, if you want to play around on ETHW or ETHF for that matter, do some Googling. Google the network name. Figure out how to connect to a different network. These are important skills to learn. And figure out how to plug these values into MetaMask so you can flip-flop between different blockchains. This will also deepen your understanding as you play around or just visualize. But don't go clicking around on everything under the sun. Blockchain gives you way more than enough rope to hang yourself with. So don't click on any smart contracts that are unaudited, new. Don't be the guinea pig. I think Richard would probably agree. You don't want to beta test brand new financial software, especially from founders and developers that I haven't really heard of up until 2 weeks ago. I mean, have you guys heard of Chandler Guo? Have you guys heard of that guy ever since, before 2 weeks? Because I have not. Seems like a nice, normal dude. He's got one YouTube video on YouTube. He seems like he was friends with Vitalik and did some work for Ethereum. So the founder seems all right, but it doesn't guarantee that he's built a solid, good product, and it doesn't guarantee that a lot of these miners won't eventually go away or become corrupt somehow. Not trying to FUD, just saying all the possibilities here. So that's why I highly suggest that you keep an eye on this, especially if you already had Hex. And to reiterate that point as well, if you don't already have Hex in your wallet, you just missed out on this whole opportunity, and you're going to keep missing out on Pulse Chain. So one more reason to get yourself a bag of Hex right now, secure it at the low points. So you're not, number one, aping back into Hex at 10 or 20 cents. And number two, some people might just miss Pulse Chain altogether. You guys need to get a hold of your copy of your coins now. Could be Hex, Hedron, any other coin on any other ERC20 coin. They're all getting copied over to Pulse Chain, just like they were all copied over to ETHW. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful experiment. Pretty unprecedented. Copying the full system state is a brand new concept introduced by Pulse Chain, executed first by ETHW, but I'm looking at ETHW as a test bed. It's a test run for what will happen on Pulse Chain, and with any bit of success at all on ETHW, I think Pulse Chain is going to just do astronomically well. Again, I'm not buying Hex on the ETHW chain. I'm simply holding and waiting, hoping the price gets up to parity. But if I see things going in a bad direction, how much time is that going to take? Probably months. Guys, I have a long time preference, so I can just sit around and I can watch this chain for months and months. And so I really hope it works out. Fingers crossed. Because if it does, what a blessing that would be. You know what I mean? Free money out of thin air, not only on Pulse Chain, but on ETHW as well. Maybe even ETHF. I mean, in some crazy world where both these chains work out great for Hex, 4 chains with Hex on each one, that's expensive. Man, that would be a dream come true. But I know better than to get overly exuberant. I'm cautiously optimistic as always. So if you want to say I'm fudding your bag because I'm not tripping over myself, telling everybody to ape into Hex on ETHW, you go ahead and say that, buddy. You go ahead and unsubscribe, dislike the video, do whatever you got to do to help yourself sleep at night. Till then, I really want the best for everybody in this community. I want you all to make tons and tons of money and be richer than your wildest expectations. Because financial freedom is why we're all here. So let's wait and see with ETHW, but I think we're in the right place. We're in the right community. As always, guys, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.